My mom skipped my wedding to avoid overshadowing my sisters, so I exposed her favoritism in my speech and watched her reputation collapse. My mom, Charlotte, 57, female, is refusing to attend my, Delilah, 27, female, wedding. Honestly, the reason is so ridiculous that I can barely believe it myself. Apparently, because my sister, Lily, 29, female, already got married earlier this year, my mom feels like she can't give another one any attention. She's literally worried about overshadowing my sister's wedding. Like, seriously? Let me give you a little bit of background here so that you understand just how absurd this whole situation is. My sister has always been the golden child, the apple of my mom's eye, the one who could do no wrong. This dynamic has been in play ever since we were kids, and it's something I've grown all too familiar with over the years. It's like she could do no wrong in my mom's eyes, while I was constantly trying to live up to an impossible standard. It's the kind of favoritism that you can almost feel physically, like a weight pressing down on you whenever you're compared to her. Growing up, it seemed like my sister could do whatever she wanted without ever facing any real consequences. If she got caught with a bad grade on a test, my mom would brush it off with a laugh, saying she must have been tired or distracted. If I got a similar grade, though, it was a full-blown crisis, and I'd have to sit through a lecture about how I needed to apply myself more and work harder. It wasn't just academics, it extended to extracurriculars, social interactions, and even personal achievements. No matter what I did, it always felt like I was living in the shadow of her successes. I've done everything to try to get my mom's attention and approval. I spent countless hours studying, participating in numerous extracurricular activities, and even tried to mirror my sister's interests, hoping that maybe then I'd get a bit of that attention. But it's like nothing I do ever measures up to what my sister accomplishes. I've been through so many moments where I try to share some of my own achievements or happy moments, only to be met with a half-hearted nod or a quick change of subject. It's like all my efforts to stand out and make a mark are just invisible to her unless it's convenient for her to acknowledge me. So, when I got engaged, I was absolutely thrilled. I had this huge burst of excitement, imagining that this was finally going to be my moment. I thought maybe, just maybe, this would be the time when my mom would finally give me the attention and approval I've been craving for so long. My fiancé and I had been together for 5 wonderful years, and we were both beyond excited to start this next chapter of our lives. We had spent countless hours dreaming about our wedding, talking through all the little details, and planning everything meticulously to make sure it was a day that truly reflected who we were as a couple. I was hoping that my mom would be as excited as I was and that maybe she'd even share in our enthusiasm for this new chapter. After all, this was a big milestone in my life, and I had always hoped that my mom would be a major part of it. But, as it turns out, I was sorely mistaken. As soon as I announced our wedding date to her, the first thing out of her mouth wasn't a heartfelt congratulations or an enthusiastic, "I'm so happy for you." Instead, her immediate response was, "But your sister just got married this year. Are you sure you want to do this now?" It felt like a punch in the gut. I mean, I had expected something positive, something that reflected the excitement and joy I was feeling. Instead, I was met with an almost dismissive tone that seemed to downplay the significance of my own special day. It was as if the news of my engagement had barely registered with her, and her only concern was that my wedding might somehow overshadow my sister's. I tried to explain that our wedding was planned for a different part of the year and that we had chosen the date with careful consideration. I thought she might understand that this was not about competing or trying to take away from my sister's happiness. But no, it seemed like she was so caught up in the idea of not wanting to create any sort of competition that she couldn't see how much this meant to me. Like, are you kidding me? It's not like I planned my wedding to spite my sister or anything. Our dates just happened to fall in the same year, and let's be real, people get married in the same year all the time. It's not a big deal, or at least it shouldn't be. But in my mom's world, everything revolves around my sister, and I'm just the side character. I tried to brush it off at first, thinking that maybe once my mom saw how genuinely happy I was about my wedding, she'd come around and be excited for me too. I figured that with time, she might shift her focus and start to support this new chapter in my life. In an effort to make things easier for her, I even offered to scale down our plans and have a smaller, more intimate ceremony if that would make her feel more comfortable. I wanted her to be a part of our celebration, and I thought that maybe if we adjusted things to fit her comfort level, she might be willing to reconsider her stance. But despite my efforts to accommodate her concerns, she wasn't having any of it. Her response was pretty much the same every time we talked about it. She said she didn't want to split her focus between 2 weddings in the same year because it would somehow take away from my sister's special moment. Honestly, I was left dumbfounded. I mean, seriously? What? My sister already had her special moment. She had the big, extravagant wedding, the lavish reception, the whole 9 yards. My mom was there, right at the center of it all, basking in the spotlight and soaking up all the praise and attention. It was her time to shine, and she did so with all the pomp and circumstance you could imagine. So now it's my turn, and suddenly it feels like I'm in some sort of competition where I'm being accused of stealing something that was never mine to begin with. It's baffling and, quite frankly, hurtful to think that my own special day is being dismissed or minimized because it might somehow overshadow my sister's wedding. It feels like I'm being punished for simply wanting to celebrate my love and start my own life with my fiancé. I thought about all the ways my mom had been the center of attention during my sister's wedding. She had been at the forefront, eagerly showing off the wedding photos, recounting every detail of the day to anyone who would listen. It was as if my sister's wedding was the only event that mattered, and everything else was secondary. And now, when it's my turn to have a moment of joy and celebration, my mom is acting like my wedding is somehow a threat to that precious spotlight. Even though I was deeply hurt, I tried to remain focused on what mattered to me and my fiancé. We had put so much effort into planning our wedding, and I wanted it to be a day filled with love and happiness, not overshadowed by family drama. So, we continued with our preparations, determined to make it a special day for ourselves and the guests who truly wanted to be there. But with every passing day leading up to the wedding, it became increasingly clear that my mom wasn't going to change her mind. Her insistence on not splitting her focus and her comments about how my wedding might take away from my sister's special moment were starting to feel more like excuses than legitimate concerns. It was as if she was using this as a way to justify her decision not to attend, rather than facing the reality that she simply didn't want to be a part of it. After a few more conversations, and by conversations, I mean arguments, it became clear that my mom wasn't going to budge. She flat out told me that she wouldn't be coming to my wedding because it would be too much for her to handle. She said she didn't want to hurt my sister's feelings or make her feel less special. Honestly, I was floored. It's not like I was asking her to choose between us, but by refusing to attend my wedding, she made it clear where her priorities lie. At that point, I was done trying to appease her. I just couldn't keep bending over backwards to accommodate my mom's absurd reasoning any longer. It was beyond frustrating, and honestly, I wasn't about to let her ridiculous excuses ruin what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. I mean, this was my wedding we were talking about, something I'd been dreaming about for ages. I wasn't going to let her unwillingness to support me take away from the joy and excitement of it all. So, with a mix of determination and defiance, I decided to move forward with the wedding planning without her. My fiancé was an absolute rock throughout this whole ordeal. He was incredibly supportive, and I couldn't have asked for a better partner to navigate through this mess with. In fact, he came up with a really thoughtful idea. He suggested that we write a speech together for the reception, something that would address the elephant in the room without being too confrontational or inflammatory. It was his way of acknowledging the awkward situation while still keeping things classy and respectful. I took that idea and ran with it. I poured my heart into crafting a speech that was both honest and reflective of how I felt. I wanted to thank everyone who had shown up and supported us, but I also wanted to include a special acknowledgement for my mom, even though she wasn't there. It was a tricky balance to strike, but I felt like it was important to be honest about the situation without being overtly disrespectful. The speech went something like this: I want to take a moment to thank someone who unfortunately couldn't be here today, my mom. I know she's been busy making sure my sister's wedding from earlier this year remains the most important event in our family's history. I wouldn't want my special day to overshadow hers, so I completely understand why she couldn't be here. But I'm grateful for all the life lessons she's taught me, like how to gracefully handle being second best. It's really prepared me for today. I really thought the speech struck the right chord. It was a mix of gratitude and a little bit of pointed honesty. I wasn't trying to be mean or hurtful. I just wanted to speak my truth and acknowledge the situation in a way that was both dignified and real. I was tired of pretending like everything was fine when it wasn't. This was my wedding, and I felt like I deserved to have my feelings acknowledged, even if it meant making a subtle nod to the reality of the situation. After the wedding, things took an unexpected turn. People started talking about the speech. It got shared on social media, and well, it kind of blew up. I didn't expect it to go viral or anything, but the next thing I knew, it was everywhere. Relatives, friends, acquaintances, everyone was talking about it. Some people were supportive, saying that it was brave of me to address the situation openly. Others, however, thought it was inappropriate or that I had crossed a line. My mom called me the other day, absolutely furious. I could barely get a word in edgewise as she unleashed a tirade about how disrespectful I was for airing our private family matters in front of everyone at the wedding. It felt like she was unloading all her frustration on me, and it was overwhelming. She even accused me of trying to embarrass her on purpose, which was pretty hard to hear. I mean, the whole point of my speech was to address the situation honestly but tactfully, not to humiliate her. I tried to explain that I was just speaking my truth and that I wasn't going to hide how hurt I felt by her decision to skip the wedding. I told her I had hoped that by being honest, it would somehow help her understand where I was coming from, but she wasn't having any of it. Her reaction was more about how she was perceived by others than about how I felt. It's like her main concern was maintaining her image rather than acknowledging the impact of her actions on me. Honestly, it's a tough spot to be in. Part of me feels this gnawing guilt because, at the end of the day, she's still my mom, and I never wanted to hurt her. I never thought that standing up for myself would lead to such a rift between us. It's hard to reconcile the fact that my attempt to be honest and open about my feelings has caused so much pain. I never expected it to blow up like this, and it's weighing on me. But then there's this other part of me that feels a strange sense of vindication. For once, people are starting to see the reality of what I've been dealing with my whole life. It's like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and I'm no longer carrying the burden of pretending everything's okay when it's not. For years, I've been living in this shadow, constantly trying to measure up to my sister while dealing with my mom's favoritism. And now, finally, there's this moment where I've put a spotlight on that dynamic. It's both freeing and unsettling, and I'm still trying to process it all. My sister, of course, is taking my mom's side. She thinks I overreacted and that I should have just accepted the fact that our mom couldn't be in two places at once, emotionally, I guess. But how was I supposed to just accept that? How was I supposed to be okay with my mom not wanting to be at my wedding because she didn't want to overshadow my sister's big day from months ago? It's not like I asked for a second wedding or tried to steal her thunder. I just wanted my mom to be there for me, for once, without having to compete with my sister's previous wedding. It feels like my sister is missing the point entirely. It's not about competing or trying to diminish the significance of her wedding. It's about basic support and family unity. It's about having my mom show up for a major life event in my life, something that every child should be able to expect from their parents. Instead, I was met with this sense of being an afterthought, and that stings deeply. So, now here I am, newly married but dealing with a whole new level of family drama. My mom still isn't speaking to me, and our relationship feels like it's on shaky ground. It's disheartening to think that the wedding, which was supposed to be a joyful occasion, has turned into a battleground for unresolved family issues. My sister has made it clear that she thinks I'm in the wrong and that I should have just accepted the situation without making a fuss. Some of my extended family members have reached out to me, saying they support me and that they're proud of me for standing up for myself. They've expressed their understanding of how difficult this situation must have been and how brave it was for me to speak out. Their support has been a bright spot in all this, a reminder that there are people who get it and who have my back. And then there are others who think I was out of line for making that speech. They argue that I should have kept the family drama private and not used my wedding as a platform to air grievances. Their opinions have made me question whether I did the right thing or if I should have approached the situation differently. It's a lot to process, and I'm struggling to find the balance between validating my own feelings and considering how others perceive my actions. At the end of the day, though, I'm glad I did it. I feel like, for the first time, I'm standing up for myself and not letting my mom's favoritism dictate how I feel about my own life. I'm not going to apologize for wanting my wedding to be about me and my fiancé, and I'm not going to apologize for being honest about how hurt I was by her decision. But now I'm left wondering if there's any way to fix this. Part of me thinks that maybe I should reach out to my mom and try to explain where I was coming from, but another part of me feels like I've already said everything that needs to be said. I don't know if she'll ever really understand how much her actions hurt me, and I don't know if I can keep trying to get through to her when it feels like she's never going to see things from my perspective. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now, newly married but with a mom who's not speaking to me and a sister who thinks I'm the bad guy. I'm happy with my decision to go ahead with the wedding and make that speech, but I'm not sure where to go from here with my family. Do I try to make amends, or do I just accept that this is the way things are always going to be? Hi, so here's the latest in my ongoing family drama. My mom has been trying to contact me nonstop. It's honestly getting to the point where it's ridiculous. She called me so much during my honeymoon that I had to actually block her. Can you imagine? I'm supposed to be enjoying this romantic getaway with my new husband, and instead, I'm getting bombarded with calls and texts from my mom, who's furious about the whole speech situation. It was stressing me out so much that I just couldn't deal with it anymore, so I decided to block her number, hoping she'd get the hint and give me some space. But, of course, that didn't stop her. When we got back home, I found that she had left so many voice messages on our home phone. I'm not even sure how many because I honestly lost count after a while. It was one after another, all filled with her going off about how I've humiliated her and how I've ruined her reputation and all this other stuff that just made me want to scream. I finally decided to listen to a few of them, hoping that maybe, just maybe, she had calmed down and we could have a normal conversation. Boy, was I wrong. In one of the messages, she actually threatened to sue me for defamation. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Like, seriously? Sue her own daughter over a speech at my own wedding? I was stunned, to say the least. I mean, I get that she's upset, but this felt like she was taking things to a whole new level. I called her back and tried to explain that it wasn't even my fault that the video went viral. I told her straight up that I wasn't the one who posted the video online, someone else did. I have no idea who, and frankly, I don't even care at this point. But she wasn't ready to listen to any of that. All she could focus on was how she looked to other people and how I had betrayed her by speaking out about how I really felt. I tried to tell her that I wasn't trying to humiliate her, that I was just being honest about how hurt I was by her decision not to come to the wedding, but she just wouldn't hear it. I'm also really worried about the potential fallout from all of this. If my mom is really serious about suing me, what does that mean for the rest of the family? How is this going to affect my relationship with my dad, my sister, and everyone else? I'm scared that this whole situation is going to create even more rifts and cause even more damage than it already has. Hi, everyone, so buckle up because things have taken another wild turn in my ongoing saga with my mom. I honestly didn't think it could get any crazier, but here we are. About a week after that last blowout conversation with my mom, I received a letter in the mail that completely threw me for a loop. It was from a lawyer, well, supposedly from a lawyer, saying that my mom is suing me for defamation. And not just that, she's asking for $5,000 in damages. I remember standing there in the kitchen, holding this letter, and just feeling a wave of panic wash over me. My heart was racing. I was trying to wrap my head around the fact that my own mom was actually taking this to the next level. I mean, it's one thing to threaten to sue your kid during a heated argument, but to follow through? That's just next level crazy. She was claiming that, since she works in the service industry, she's a hairdresser. By the way, the video of my wedding speech had impacted her ability to make money. She said that clients were canceling appointments and that her reputation had taken a serious hit because of me. The letter went on about how I had caused her irreparable harm and that she was entitled to compensation for the loss of income and the emotional distress I'd supposedly caused her. At first, I was really nervous. Like, my stomach was in knots, and I started spiraling a bit, thinking about what it would mean if this lawsuit were real. How would I defend myself? What if she actually had a case? I know it sounds dramatic, but I even started picturing us in court, with my mom sitting across the room, glaring at me, while some random lawyer grilled me on the stand. The whole thing felt surreal and just so wrong. But then, as I started reading the letter more carefully, I noticed that something was off. Actually, a lot of things were off. For starters, the letter was riddled with spelling mistakes. I mean, I get that typos happen, but this was on a whole other level. It was like whoever wrote it didn't even bother to run it through spell check. Words were misspelled, sentences didn't make sense, and the whole thing just seemed sloppy. Then there was the contact information at the bottom. There was a phone number listed for the law firm, so I decided to call it, just to see if this was legit. But when I dialed the number, it just rang and rang. No voicemail, no answering service, nothing. I tried calling a couple more times at different points during the day, thinking maybe I had just caught them at a bad time, but I never got an answer. At that point, I was starting to think something was seriously fishy about this whole thing. So, I did what any sane person would do in this situation. I turned to Google. I typed in the name of the lawyer and the firm that was listed on the letter, hoping to find some information that would either confirm or debunk this lawsuit. But when I hit search, nothing came up. And I don't mean, like, not a lot of results. I mean nothing, zilch. There was no record of this lawyer and this firm existing anywhere. And that's when it hit me, this whole thing was fake. My mom had gone out of her way to try and scare me with a bogus lawsuit, and she didn't even do a good job of it. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. Like, who does that? Who goes to the trouble of making up a fake legal document just to try and intimidate their own kid? Once I realized the letter was a fake, the fear and anxiety I had been feeling started to fade away. Instead, I felt this weird mix of relief and anger. Relief because, thank God, I wasn't actually being sued by my mom, but also anger because, seriously, what the hell? What kind of parent does that to their child? I mean, I know we've had our issues, but this felt like crossing a line, a big one. I sat down with my husband and told him everything, showing him the letter and going through all the details. He was just as shocked as I was. We spent a good hour just talking it out, trying to make sense of why my mom would do something like this. He suggested that maybe she was just desperate and didn't know how else to get my attention or to get back at me for the wedding speech. And while that might be true, it didn't make the whole thing any less hurtful. What really got to me was that, instead of trying to talk things out, she chose to try and manipulate me with a fake lawsuit. It felt like she was more interested in controlling me or punishing me than in actually working through our issues. And that's just not something I can easily forgive or forget. Hey, everyone, so after that ridiculous fake lawsuit letter, I was pretty much at my wit's end. I kept going back and forth on whether I should confront my mom or just let it go. But honestly, I knew I couldn't just sit on this without saying something. I mean, she crossed a line with that stunt, and it wasn't something I could just sweep under the rug and move on from. So, after a few days of mulling it over, I decided to confront her. It wasn't an easy decision, but I figured it was time to put everything out on the table once and for all. So, I drove over to her house. I was pretty nervous, to be honest. I didn't know how the conversation was going to go, and I was half expecting her to just slam the door in my face. But I knew this was something I had to do if I was ever going to have any peace of mind. When she opened the door, she looked surprised to see me. The first thing out of her mouth was, "What are you doing here? You should be talking to my lawyer, not me." And let me tell you, the way she said it, it was like she was so righteous in her fake lawsuit that it almost made me laugh out loud. But I kept my cool. I looked her in the eye and told her straight up that I knew the lawsuit letter was fake and that she could drop the act. At first, she tried to play dumb, like she had no idea what I was talking about. She was all like, "What do you mean fake? I don't know what you're accusing me of, but my lawyer will handle it." But I wasn't buying any of it. I told her I had checked everything, the spelling mistakes, the non-existent law firm, the phone number that didn't even work. I said, "Come on, Mom, you're not fooling anyone. Just admit it." There was this moment of silence where she just stared at me, and I could see the gears turning in her head. Then she finally sighed and admitted it. She said, "Fine, you caught me. But you left me with no other option. What was I supposed to do when you humiliated me like that in front of everyone?" Hearing her say that was like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe she actually thought that she was the victim here. I told her that the internet doesn't forget and that, even if the original person who posted the video took it down, there are probably tons of copies floating around out there. I tried to make her understand that this wasn't just something I could control or make go away and that suing me, especially with a fake lawsuit, wasn't going to solve anything. But instead of understanding, she just doubled down. She started accusing me of ruining her life and acting like a brat who only cares about herself. She went on and on about how I've always been selfish, how everything is always about me, and how I'm trying to destroy her reputation because I'm jealous of my sister. The whole thing was just so frustrating. I mean, I had gone there hoping for some kind of resolution, but instead, she was just digging in her heels and refusing to see my side of things. So, I told her, as calmly as I could, that I didn't do anything except share my feelings at my own wedding, and I wasn't going to apologize for that. I told her I had been hurt by her actions for years, and that speech was the only way I knew how to express that hurt. I also told her that I wasn't responsible for the fact that it went viral, and I certainly wasn't going to apologize for something that was the result of years of her favoritism and neglect. And then I told her that unless she's ready to apologize for the pain she's caused me, she should just not contact me anymore. I told her I was done with the drama, the manipulation, and the guilt trips. I said, "I need to protect myself and my mental health, and if that means cutting you out of my life for a while, then that's what I'm going to do." And with that, I turned and walked out of her house. I'm still a bit shaken up from this and hope that I can move past this and enjoy my marriage with my lovely husband. Thank you, everyone, for listening to me rant to you.